This is Auckland Museum on a beautiful day, and this is the reality of Auckland Museum's opening day. It is 12 days since New Zealand started reopening, and this morning the Auckland Museum is going to do a pōwhiri, which is a special welcome ceremony, and then open its doors to the public. All visitors coming into the museum have to register first using the Next Up system by sending a SMS or using the website. This helps the museum with both capacity management and contact tracing, and provides the visitor with the extra benefit of measuring queue wait time. I've already registered, and this is the confirmation page. I'm going to show this QR code to the staff as I go in. One of the things that's been quite impressive about Auckland Museum is that they've paid a lot of attention to privacy. So on their website and also here on the QR code scanning area, they've provided a lot of information. Usually in this area we would see large ticketing desks, but because Auckland Museum has stopped ticketing due to the lack of foreign visitors in the country, instead they've replaced those large visitor desks with these QR code scanning pods. One of the benefits of registering with the Next Up system is that it also tells you the queue wait time for the line outside the museum. The museum have got some great advice on their website, especially about what to bring. For a start, they've said a light coat because the coat check is closed due to COVID-19. They also suggest bringing your own full water bottle because the drinking fountains are currently closed. The wheelchairs are still available, but they are being sanitised after every use. The museum is still doing a paper visitor guide as a wayfinding map around the museum. I'm going to start my visit with a coffee. Auckland Museum's cafe is the best. Here in the queuing area there's lots of really clear signage, both on the ropes and on the floor. After each table is finished in the cafe, the staff are giving their area a very thorough clean, both tables and chairs. Auckland Museum for the first time is getting its visitors to go through the building in a very specific flow. So it means that areas like behind me are cordoned off so that visitors go through the right entrance to each area. The museum is using visual signals on the floor to indicate to visitors which way to go through the building. Because this area contains taonga or treasures, it is considered tapu or sacred, and usually visitors would wash their hands here before they leave to wash off that tapu. But this area has been closed, but the museum has done a really beautiful job. We can see some of the signage that was up from before the museum closed in foreign languages, where it was encouraging tourists to obey the Ministry of Health guidelines. In a city built on over 50 volcanoes, this is Auckland's favourite exhibit, but it is a high-touch area, and its eruption simulator crams people into a bedroom to imagine what an eruption looks like. So this area has been completely closed to the public. It's nice that the exhibit is still running though, so we can get a sense of what it would be like. There's heaps of cleaning happening all through the museum, very visible. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a major dino fan. Come and check it out. The museum has used their COVID-19 branded signage not just for safety messages, but also to show their new wayfinding. Sue, if you're watching, found your friend. The museum has closed most of its touch exhibits and interactives, including digital. This space is a really interesting area because the museum wants you to head that way through one side of the exhibit and come back the other way on the other side. So they're using the yellow dots on the floor to control visitor flow. The museum here on opening day is a little quiet, but there's quite a few visitors around. We've noticed two types of demographics. There are parents with young children, preschool age, and there's also a few couples wandering around too. Weird and Wonderful is an exhibition very popular amongst young children. It has been shut off for safety. David, how did it feel to open this morning?
Well, it felt very unusual actually, because so many of us have been at home in our home bubbles working away, and it was really lovely to come back to the space, but it did have an unusual feeling that because it's been closed for so long, the longest period ever in the museum's history actually.
And a beautiful emotional ceremony this morning.
Yeah, it was.
You had the similar thing when you closed down.
That's right, so we had karakia when we closed, and of course all of that happened in a bit of a hurry, but we made sure that we sort of put the building into a state of rest before we all left. And then this morning was about opening the building up again and waking up, and even though we've had staff on and off through the period, today was the really important time opening to the public. So one of our team came in every couple of days right throughout the lockdown, because we take that role of looking after the taonga and giving them good care very seriously. It's an important role that we perform for the community. We were keen to view that as an essential service because the collections are important to New Zealand and future generations. So we had somebody coming in just checking for pests, checking for leaks, just making sure things were okay, and in a nice way sort of just reminding the collections that we still cared about them. So
keeping them company.
Keeping them company from nice. every now and then, yeah.
And what sorts of operational measures have you put in place for COVID-19?
Yeah, so we've, like many businesses all around the city, we've been watching the government guidelines and interpreting those that are suitable to our physical building, and we've got a very, very large footprint. So we were just trying to work out what that meant in terms of numbers and density of visitors and so forth. We've put in a special and really simple online queuing system because we do need to know both for contact tracing but also just to keep a limit on numbers and get a feel for how many people are in the building. So that's a system that people can go online or by text and jump in a queue, and it allows us to manage how many people through the door per hour. And so that's getting people into the building. The other things we've had to go through, and because parts of the museum are very high touch, there's a lot of interactives, a lot of little audio things and touch screens and so forth. We've had a team go through the museum really carefully last week and work out which ones are safe to have open and which ones we're closing off for now, and different solutions for different areas. For the time being, the Volcanoes Gallery and the Weird and Wonderful are not open because they're really, and they're Aucklanders' favourites, and it really pains us not to be able to open those just yet. But we really want to see how the crowds go, how people's behaviour is, and also the government guidelines are that we shouldn't open them at the moment because they're really congested, high touch, excitable areas, and we just can't guarantee the safety at the moment. So we're going to be getting them open as soon as we can because we know how popular they are, and we'll just sort of wait and see on that one. So the museum is free, so there's no ticketing because that's a high touch point, and also most of our ticketing is for overseas tourists, and of course we don't have any overseas tourists to speak of at the moment. So that was a way for us to put our visitor hosts onto different duties so that they're not put on the front line of that sort of high touch interaction. Another thing we've done is looked at sort of traffic flow through the building because we know there's certain pinch points, so we've implemented a bit of a one-way system on each floor of the museum. It's not an absolute strict thing, but it is an encouragement to make sure that we ease people's sense of being crowded in, and because what we're unsure of is how comfortable people are going to be. and the evidence is that people are feeling reasonably confident, so we're looking forward to having lots of visitors back. But we also have to make sure that we're fulfilling our responsibilities as a public organisation to keep those guidelines and regulations in place, and enable people to feel that coming to the museum is a good place and a safe place.
And you've put a call for collections out at the moment.
We did, yes. So partway through lockdown, our curators put together a call for items and writings and images that relate to the lockdown period. And we wanted to do that at the time because it's really, we were just saying how quickly we forget. And so the phenomenon of the lockdown has already changed, and what we wanted to do was collect people's experiences, and we're going to make a selection of 100 objects that represent that COVID lockdown period, and then they'll go into the collection as a snapshot and for future research and future reflection.
What's your favourite so far?
Favourite so far? I have to say it's probably one of the teddy bears.
Gorgeous.
So yeah, somebody's generously offered one of the teddy bears, but there's also amazing photographs of the different activities that people were up to at home, and I think that's going to be a really interesting snapshot on the social phenomenon of what it was like to all be staying at home for that period.
And tell me, how are you? We saw a cultural ceremony this morning, the pōwhiri to open. There's a lot of touch involved in cultural practices in New Zealand, like the hongi to say hello, and even around carvings, they are a touch object. How are you approaching those?
So, well, our Māori partners were very, very quick to flex and adjust, and because a lot of that practice is about wellness, it's about mauri ora, and if we're in a state where actually that's not a safe thing to do, then it's not actually complying with mauri ora. So it's been able to flex and adjust with the situation, and while still having the intent of being here and being connected to each other.
During the lockdown, we went through Anzac on the 25th of April, and usually there would be a swell of thousands of people here at the dawn service on Anzac Day, and instead we all celebrated at our letterboxes. How did that feel? Yeah,
well, we actually had a very small wreath laying ceremony here at the cenotaph, and there were just a handful of people who wanted to come and witness that, and it was filmed. We put a lot of effort into our online offer for Anzac Day, and what it actually did was it stretched it over a whole week this time, because what we saw is hits on our website went over 500,000 for that, and that was only just slightly shy of the really big spike we had in 2015, which was the anniversary, the 100-year anniversary of Gallipoli. So we're really pleased. People were wanting to still mark Anzac, and we were able to provide lots of different activities and sort of the laying of the virtual poppies and so forth. And what we observed was that instead of it being a spike on Anzac Day, was that it actually was almost a whole week of interest. And you could suppose that that's because people are at home thinking about it. They don't have to wait till the day because it's online already. And we had great support from various historians who did writings for us and reflections on what Anzac meant in this period of lockdown, and so all of that just helped in people's interest and the different ways that people wanted to remember Anzac.
And what about your special exhibitions program? Is there any changes in the future?
So some of the program has been delayed, but we were really thrilled because the Wildlife Photographer of the Year had only just opened when we closed down, and so we got a lot of social media about people disappointed that they'd missed it. But we've negotiated to extend that exhibition, so that's open as of today, and we're putting some constraints on numbers through at any one time. But we're really hoping that Aucklanders will look forward to coming back and seeing that. And for those who missed out when it was briefly open to start with, we can let them know that it's all go, and we'd love to see them.
Excellent.
They're extraordinary, beautiful. Wildlife photographs from all around the world. It's a really popular show.
Gorgeous. And any advice for museum leaders out there in the world who are looking to New Zealand and wondering what parts to copy and take away?
Yeah, I think believe in our core purpose as a museum, which is to connect people with collections, and we can do that in many, many ways. In terms of opening up the building, really important to keep in touch with your staff, understand their anxieties, and talk through some solutions. And one of the things we did was we sort of got a bit of I don't want to call it a war cabinet, but a group of senior leaders from across the museum who met every few days by Zoom throughout the lockdown and responded as the different guidelines changed, and we're planning ahead, which is what has got us to today with everything all in place. The security is in place, the cleaning regime is in place, the online queuing system and tracking and tracing is in place. And it was just by having a tight group of managers, mixture of senior management and frontline managers, and tasked with making things happen. And that group changed throughout the lockdown as well. So we flexed to where the need was, and I'd say that's been a really successful technique.
Having one door closed is becoming a common indicator to visitors that a shop is capacity managed, and we can see indeed that sign here, including advice to wait for staff to invite you in. Like the cafe, the shop is contactless in its payment method. On your way out, you need to present your QR code to be scanned as well. Auckland Museum, thank you so much for having us. Great job on the COVID-19 signage. We had a wonderful time. Hope the rain helps with the visitors. See you again soon.